Oh, hey guys, back inside again. It's still rainy and nasty out, so do another indoor gardening episode, but it's gonna be a little bit different today. Talking about one of my favorite subjects, and that is seeds. Seeds, just always been, always loved looking through seed catalogs and plant catalogs, and this is the time of year. If you bought seeds online before, you're about to start getting flooded with them. I got 2 more just the other day. This what I have here in front of me is just the Baker Creek seed catalog. Order this online, you get it for free. It's pretty awesome, it has tons of good pictures, buy all your heirloom seeds in there if that's what you're into. But it doesn't have to be just about seeds. So I'd like to talk to you today about planting for your seeds, okay? Because it's so easy just to get the nice magazines or go online and just click, 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 and there you go. Next thing you know, you have 20 packs of stuff and you have no idea what you're gonna do with them. We all do it, or at least we have, or yes you have. Don't say you didn't. Yes you have. Talk about first, when you're looking at your seeds, look at the zone. Know your USDA zone. Right here where I'm at, right in the verge of zone 6B, 7A. So a lot of plants that are, say, like for perennials we're talking about, that will survive in zone 7. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they have a really bad winter, which has been about 8 years since we had a really bad killing winter, I call it, for just the zone 7 plants, the marginal ones. It's been a while since I've really lost any plants due to the weather. But if you're in that transition zone, you know, take a chance. But if you're in zone 6, don't grow something that says it needs a zone 8 or 9 to survive. So I know a lot of things are out there that are really awesome, and if you do really have your heart set on growing something that maybe is a zone 9, you're just gonna have to put it in a container or be willing to dig it up and bring it inside. And a lot of people do that for dahlias and other tropical type bulbs. And that's something that if you want to do, that's more than adequate. But me, I don't like to go through the hassle of digging stuff up and bringing it inside and bringing it out. It's just, I like once they're planted, just for them to be naturalized and just stay where they are planted. So consider your zone when deciding on what you want to get for your garden this winter. Now, talking about furthermore on zones, is not all zones are created alike. So let's just say, for sake of argument, I'm in zone 7 right now, okay? Well, we get on average 43 to 45 inches of rain. This year, or 2020 I should say, it's just over. We had like 65 inches of rain, which is just crazy. It's almost, a third more rain than what's average. But if you live in Dallas, Texas, or North Texas, or southern Oklahoma, there's zone 7 as well. It doesn't rain nearly as much. It's hot, it's windy, it's dry. There's no humidity. Well, much less humidity than I have here. So all zones are not exactly the same. The hardiness zone basically tells you what the minimum temperature you're going to experience in a growing season. So that's kind of misleading. So don't say, oh, I'm in zone 7, I'm buying this plant. Well, check into it. Maybe it needs a really high humidity environment to survive, and you plant it out in West Texas or something like that. It's going to dry out just because the lack of moisture in the air, the drying winds, the soil's not right. And vice versa, if you have a plant that likes to be dry, doesn't need a lot of moisture, it likes the hot, bright sun, it might do awesome in Arizona or New Mexico, where it's going to be sunny and it's not going to get a lot of rain, the humidity's low. You plant it out here in East Tennessee or South Carolina, and it's just, the roots are going to rot in place because it just doesn't want that much water. So it does take a little bit of homework on your part, but when you're planting these things out and planning to buy something, if you're going to spend your own money on buying something that you plan on growing it out, do a little bit of research. It's not that difficult. Everyone has smartphones or access to internet. It's super easy just to do a quick search and find out, say, you know what, maybe this is going to be good in my neighborhood, maybe it's not. And on that, one last point before I move on, if it's growing in your neighborhood, if your neighbor have it and they're growing it and it's doing fine, then that helps you out, because you're like, okay, I've seen this growing around town, or my grandma used to grow this and she lives down the road, or whatever. That gives you a little bit of more of a comfort zone before you go making a purchase of a $25 bush or shrub of some kind, that if it's growing around in your neighborhood, that's a good sign that it's going to do well for you as well, as long as your soil and everything is being taken care of in that matter. All right, so let's move on to another point. Okay, another point before you look into buying your perennials and things like this is your soil type. Okay, and this is just kind of reiterating what I was talking about, zone. If you live in a place with heavy wet clay, plants, some will do fine, some will absolutely not do fine. So a lot of these plants magazines, like, bring you this one here, Just for example, you know, in the description, it'll tell you a lot of times, like, does not do well in heavy clay, needs light soil, does not do good in areas with high humidity. You know, take time to actually read through this. And it might be disheartening. Maybe you really have your heart set on something like this, and like you really want this, but it's just not going to do good in your zone. Try it in the container first before you make the commitment to buy more and more and more. You know, your eyes sometimes mislead you, because you know you might want something that it's just not going to do well. And best of luck to those who can do it, but maybe it's just not for you. All right, so here we're getting to the good part. We're actually talking about seeds now. What I like to do, and this is old school, you get your notebook and you get a pen. Now it's so simple. You can go online, you can click, go through and buy stuff, and that's fine. But for me, I like to just go through all the different magazines. I'll see what I have. I'll start writing things down. Okay, make a list of like definitely want this, maybe want this, or kind of like a ornamental, unique, something special that you're just going to try to experiment with, and that's fine. And you get a big list, and you check that against a different seed magazine. You look through this, you look through that. And when it's all said and done, you're going to end up with a pretty substantial list. If you're out of me, you know, like me, I got, you know, have a whole thing filled up full of stuff. But what you need to do is then you go through what you already have in your seeds collection. Okay, I have 4 shoe boxes right here on my seed, my plant table over here. You can't see on the side there. 4 shoe boxes, absolutely full of seeds I've collected, seeds I've saved, seeds people have given me. I give seeds away, and then somehow I keep getting more. So after you check your list, you know, you got to think about the price. So how much do you guys allow yourself for new seeds and new plants every year? Do you have a budget, or you just buy stuff and just unlimited, just you want it, you get it, right? So I don't know what you guys got going on, but leave a comment down below if you give yourself a limit or a general area of what you may or may not spend on seeds every year. It'd be interesting to see everyone's comments down below. So that being said, once you get your final list all together, you need to then really consider how much space you have. Okay, so if you're planting some annual flowers, that's a 1-season thing. Okay, they're going to grow, they're going to flower, they're going to die. They're not going to overwinter because they're annuals. They go through the one life cycle and it's over with. Okay, so that being said, if you're going to grow perennials, perennials, that's the term, as long as you pick the right zone, you have the right climate, you have the right soil, you have the right moisture levels, all these things I've talked about, you're checking all those boxes, these plants survive. They're going to multiply. Perennials are notorious for multiplying, which is either good or bad. I tend to think that's good because you can divide them and get free plants, and I'll show you guys how to do that here in the spring before things really start growing. Is the best time to kind of divide your perennials. Some people do the fall, some people do the spring. It just depends on the plant. I seem to have a little better luck in the spring for some reason. I don't know. If you do a spring or fall division in your perennials, let me know down below. Add that to your comment about how much you spend on the seeds. The perennials, like I said, they're going to get bigger. Their bases are going to get bigger. Their bushes are going to get taller and wider if they are flowering, butterfly bush, something very, very common. If you don't realize, when you plant a little stick you get from the store, that's going to be 10 feet tall and probably just as wide if you don't keep it in check and prune it every year. So make sure before you plant something right on your sidewalk that this is going to be this giant plant. So have a nice plan in place. Really think about what's going on, because before you go spending however much money you're going to spend on your seeds, on your plants, before you go buying bushes, especially perennials and fruit trees and ornamental shrubs and things that are going to be around for a long time, make sure you know where you're going to put them, but also plan for what they're going to look like in the future. Okay, so a lot of times, like I said, you get a little tiny plant, you're going to put it there, the next thing you know, 5 years down the road, this giant bush the roots have gone under your sidewalk and are starting to crack the sidewalk or lift it up. You've seen that probably with tree roots on the sidewalk of city streets, because these big oak trees have massive roots that'll just, knock the sidewalk up, right? So remember that as well. Also, don't plant things so close to your house, because you have your water lines, your electricity, all this kind of stuff. These plants go down, and what they're going to do is they're just going to keep going forever to get that moisture. Water lines especially, for some reason some plants just know where the water lines are in your house or your drains, and they're going to bust through and crack through for that source of water. That can be expensive. It can get into your foundation. So the word of caution, make sure you have an actual plan in place before you do that. Alright, so the last thing I'm going to tell you about your seeds and going through your catalogs and your magazines and all this stuff, for your winter time planning. while you're stuck inside, just have fun with it. Because I mean, if you grow something and it doesn't do well, oh well. You know, I mean, depending on however much you're planning on spending on it, if you only have $10, probably don't have as much room for leeway, right? But if you're experimenting, you're looking through a magazine like this, and you say, you know what, this plant, it says zone 8, I'm in zone 7, it's probably not going to survive, but it might. You never know. Or you might say, I really like this color, I really like this plant, and you grow it, and the picture, I'm not saying they're deceiving sometimes, but they are sometimes. Pictures are a little better than the reality, if you know what I mean. But maybe you realize that, hey, this flower wasn't as purple as I thought it was when I got it, or these leaves are not what they look like in the magazine, or maybe this plant's a lot bigger than you thought it was going to be, so you're like, oh man, this is too big, I got to move it, or it just got out of control. Vice versa. I mean, whatever it is. Just have fun with it though. Always leave yourself a little bit of room to buy some things that may not survive, some tropicals that you know you might try to keep outside in the summertime and bring it inside for the winter time. You know, whatever. This is all about having fun up here on the hillside, right? Growing plants and enjoying it, having fun all along the way. So this winter, when you're stuck inside and you have nothing else you can be doing, look through your plant magazines, look through research online. There's tons of companies online that you can buy all these awesome seeds from. Organics, heirlooms, if you want hybrids, whatever you want to do, there's tons of resources out there. Don't just get stuck on one. Don't get married to just one seed company. I know people like brand loyalty and things like that, but there are tons of companies out there doing the best that they can do. You know, there's tons of people, especially on internet providers, that have like really small companies that you've probably never heard of before. But if you look around and you find something, I found plenty on there that I've gotten some onion seeds and some other stuff that I didn't actually find in the big magazines. But these smaller companies have a lot more leeway as far as what they can offer, because they're not trying to mass produce things. So if you're trying to find some extra heirloom or some really unpopular or something that's not as popular as maybe it should be, right? Check with the smaller vendors, because people like me, we're always saving our own seeds. You can always multiply your own seeds. Ask friends, share your seeds, just have fun with it, all right guys? So hopefully your spring planning, which you do in the winter, like I've always mentioned, always be thinking one season ahead. So winter time, you plan for spring. This is what you do in the winter time to make sure your spring garden is ready to go in the best situation possible. All right guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up right there. Do check back for more videos. I'll be starting these seeds that I'm buying indoors. Definitely show you my seed starting setups and how I do things like that. If you're interested, please go ahead and consider subscribing. 2021 is going to be an awesome year for growing plants. Hope you guys follow along here on the hillside. All right guys, we'll check it. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.